The council chamber stretched wide like an ancient cathedral, its ceiling lost in artificial stars. Daesung stood at the human podium, his gray suit neat and pressed, his face calm despite the weight of what he was about to do. Around him, hundreds of alien delegates filled their seats, some floating in energy fields, others perched on crystalline platforms, a few breathing methane through specialized masks. They barely looked at him. He had stood here many times before. 50 years humanity had been part of this galactic council. 50 years of being dismissed, ignored, talked over. Today would be different. Today would be the last time. Honored members, Daesung began, his voice steady and clear. Humanity brings forth 3 requests for consideration. A ripple of what might have been laughter passed through the chamber. Tavan, the reptilian speaker, leaned forward on his elevated throne. His scales caught the light like polished jade, and his eyes held the boredom of someone who had seen 10,000 such sessions. The human speaks again, Tovan said, not bothering to hide his amusement. How charming. Proceed with your requests, young one. We shall consider them as we always do. Daesung ignored the insult. He had learned to ignore many things. First, we request equal trade rights with all council species. Currently, human merchants face tariffs 3 times higher than any other member state. Denied, Kalara chirped from her perch, her feathered crest fluttering with dismissal. The avian counselor controlled most of the merchant guilds. Your species has been spacefaring for barely 4 centuries. You must earn trade privileges over time, as all species do. We have been waiting 50 years, Daesung replied. How much longer? Perhaps another century or 2, Kilara said with what might have been a shrug. Your economics are still so primitive. Daesung made a note on his tablet. Second request. We ask for council protection from pirate raids in human sectors. 17 colonies have been attacked in the past year. 4,000 humans died. Morpheus Prime, the crystalline entity that had existed for 3 millennia, resonated with a sound like wind through caves. Its translation came through speakers. The council fleet is stretched protecting important trade routes. Human space is on the frontier. You chose to settle there. Accept the consequences. Third request, Daesung continued, his voice never rising. We ask for representation on the Council Security Committee. Humanity has the 4th largest fleet in council space, yet we have no voice in defense policy. This time, several species laughed openly. Tovan's forked tongue flicked out in what his species considered humor. 4th largest? My dear human, your fleet is adequate for your purposes, but hardly worthy of Security Committee membership. The committee is for elder species only. Perhaps in another 1,000 years when you have matured. Daesung stood silent for a moment. Around him, the vast chamber continued its business. Delegates talked among themselves, made deals, ignored him. This was how it always went. Humans spoke. The council pretended to listen. Nothing changed. I see, Daesung said quietly. Then humanity has one final announcement. Oh? Tovan said, already looking at the next item on his agenda display. Make it quick. We have important matters to discuss. The human delegation wishes to inform the council that, effective in 90 days, humanity will withdraw from the Galactic Council. We will remove all human presence from council space and cease all cooperation with council initiatives. For 3 full seconds, the chamber was absolutely silent. Then Tovan laughed. It was a rasping, hissing sound that echoed off the walls. Soon others joined him. Kilara's species made a chittering noise. Even Morpheus Prime pulsed with what might have been amusement. Withdraw, Tovan said, wiping moisture from his eyes. Oh, this is precious. And where will you go, little humans? Back to your single home world? You depend on us for everything. Your technology, your trade routes, your very survival in space. Without the council, humanity would collapse in months. Daesung gathered his papers. Nevertheless, the decision is made. We will honor all current contracts during the 90-day period. After that, all human personnel, equipment, and resources will be removed from council jurisdiction. Kilara leaned forward, her amusement fading slightly. You cannot be serious. Your economy is integrated with ours. Your people live on 100 different worlds under council protection. You would abandon all of that because you feel insulted? Not insulted, Daesung said. Disrespected. There is a difference. We have tried for 50 years to be good members of this council. We followed your rules, paid your fees, accepted your dismissals. We asked for very little. We received even less. Morpheus Prime's resonance carried a note of something that might have been concern. This is unwise, human. Humanity is young and inexperienced in galactic affairs. You need the Council's guidance. We needed the Council's partnership, Daesung corrected. What we received was contempt, so we will leave. Tovin waved a clawed hand dismissively. You will be back within a year begging for readmission. Mark my words. This foolish pride will cost your species dearly. But very well, make your dramatic exit. The Council will still be here when you crawl back. Daesung bowed as human custom dictated. Thank you for your time, honored speaker. The human delegation will begin departure procedures immediately. As he walked from the chamber, he could hear the laughter following him. They thought this was a bluff. They thought humans were too weak, too dependent, too afraid to actually leave. Let them think that. They would understand soon enough. Behind him, the Council had already moved on to other business. An economic dispute between two elder species. A border disagreement that had lasted 3 centuries. The things they considered important. The things that mattered to them. Not one of them had asked why humanity was really leaving. Not one had asked what humanity had been doing for the past 50 years while they were being ignored and dismissed. Not one had thought to question how 4,000 humans had died in pirate raids without any human military response. Daesung walked through the station's corridors toward the human quarters. Around him, the vast structure hummed with life. Power generators keeping millions alive, life support scrubbing the air, gravity generators holding everything in place, water recyclers, food processors, waste management systems all working perfectly. So much of it maintained by human engineers, so much of it designed by human minds, so much that the Council took for granted and never thought to ask about. He reached the human section and coded in the door lock. Inside, Hana looked up from her workstation. The chief engineer had been waiting for him. How did they take it? She asked. Exactly as expected, Daesung said. They laughed. Hana nodded slowly. They won't be laughing in 90 days. No, Daesung agreed. They won't. Begin phase 1. Start bringing our people home. Hana's fingers flew over her console, sending encrypted signals to every human outpost in Council space. The exodus had begun. The first ships left 30 hours after Daesung's announcement. Not the flashy diplomatic vessels the Council expected, but massive cargo haulers from the frontier colonies. They came in organized waves, their flight paths precise as clockwork. Jinwoo sat in the captain's chair of the lead freighter, watching his display as 200 ships moved in perfect formation. Behind him, the colony of New Busan was being systematically emptied. Every human, every piece of equipment, every data file. Nothing would be left behind. Transit corridor clear, Captain, his navigator reported. No Council interference. They still think we're bluffing, Jinwoo said. Continue evacuation procedures. I want every civilian off-world within 48 hours. On the planet below, Yuna coordinated the largest logistical operation humanity had ever attempted. Her screens showed 50 colonies across Council space, each one executing the same careful withdrawal. 15 billion humans had to be moved. Not just moved, but moved with everything they had built over 5 decades. Status report, she said into her comm. The responses came rapid fire from her coordinators. Sector 7, 80% evacuated. Sector 12, medical facilities being dismantled. Sector 23, shipyards cleared and locked down. Locked down. That was the key. Everything humans left behind was being encrypted, disabled, or destroyed. No one else would use what humanity had built. A Council observer ship drifted nearby, its sensors watching the evacuation. Inside, a Tellarian officer watched in growing confusion. They are actually leaving, he said to his crew. Send word to the Council. This is not a negotiating tactic. But the Council barely paid attention. Tovin issued a statement dismissing the human withdrawal as temporary hysteria that will resolve itself. Most species went about their business as usual. That lasted for 5 days. On the 6th day, a Council maintenance crew arrived at Station Orin 5 to perform routine checks. The station's life support had been acting strange. The crew chief, a veteran of 3 centuries, had never seen anything like it. The entire primary system is locked, he reported. Access codes don't work. It is like the system doesn't recognize Council authority anymore. Override it, his supervisor ordered. I tried. The override protocols are not responding. It is like they were removed. That is impossible. Who maintained these systems? The crew chief checked his records. His face paled. Humans. the human engineering team that left 3 days ago. Station Orin 5 was not alone. Across Council space, systems were starting to fail, not catastrophically, not yet, but enough to notice. Life support running at reduced capacity, power fluctuations, water recyclers working at 80% efficiency. Kilara first noticed it in her trade networks. The shipping routes that had always worked smoothly were suddenly experiencing delays. Ships were arriving late, routes taking longer, navigation data requiring constant updates. "Where are the human navigators?" she demanded of her logistics chief. "Gone, counselor. They all left with the evacuation." "Well, hire new ones. Any species can do navigation, but they could not, apparently. At least not as well." Ships that used to make runs in 5 days now took 7. Fuel consumption increased. Accidents happened. Minor ones, but they added up. Hana watched it all from her command ship, a vessel 3 times larger than anything the Council knew humans possessed. Around her, engineering teams monitored every system humans had touched in Council space. "They are starting to notice," her second-in-command reported. "Good," Hana said. Phase 2. Begin removing the deep infrastructure. What the Council did not know was that for 50 years, humans had been quietly integrating themselves into every critical system in Council space. Not obviously, not in ways that would be noticed, but deep in the code, buried in the maintenance schedules, hidden in the repair protocols, humanity had become essential. The power grid on Relios Prime started brownouts on day 15. The Council technicians could not figure out why. The reactors worked fine. The distribution network looked normal, but power kept dropping randomly. A retired human engineer, one of the last to leave, finally told them the truth before boarding his ship. The load-balancing algorithm was human-designed. It optimized power distribution across the grid. You have the basic system, but not the optimization layer. Good luck. Medical stations reported strange problems. Equipment worked, but not efficiently. Diagnostic tools gave results, but slower. Research that used to take days now took weeks. It was only when staff checked the records that they understood. Human doctors and researchers had been integral to almost every major medical facility. The food situation was worse. Agricultural World started reporting crop failures. Not complete failures, but yields dropping by 20–30%. The biotech that had boosted production was human-developed. The monitoring systems that detected plant diseases early were human-maintained. The genetic modifications that made crops grow in alien soils were human-engineered. On day 23, Morpheus Prime called an emergency council session. The ancient being's crystalline form pulsed with unusual energy. "We must discuss the human situation," its translated voice announced. "What situation?" Tavan said, still dismissive. "They are leaving. As we expected they would eventually. Good riddance to troublesome species. You fool." Morpheus Prime resonated, and the sharpness of its tone made several counselors flinch. The ancient entity rarely showed emotion. "Do you not see what is happening? Systems are failing across Council space. The humans were maintaining far more than we realized." Kilara spread her wings nervously. "My trade networks are collapsing. Transit times have increased by 40%. Costs are rising, and I just learned that humans were handling 60% of all cargo loading optimization. 60%. Without them, my ports are chaos." Reports flooded in from across the Council. A senator from Velik reported that their waste management system was failing. Human engineers had designed the recycling protocols. A military base commander reported that sensor arrays were degrading. Human technicians had been maintaining them. A colony administrator reported that their water purification was running at half capacity. Human systems engineers had optimized it. "How did we not know this?" Tavan demanded. "Because we never asked," Morpheus Prime said quietly. "We never paid attention to what humans were doing. We saw them as junior partners, unimportant, but they were working. While we debated and politicked, they were building and maintaining and improving everything around us." Yuna received a communication request from the Council on day 30. She ignored it. 3 more requests came over the next week. She ignored those too. On day 40, Dae-sung finally accepted a Council call. Tovan appeared on the screen looking less arrogant than before. "Ambassador, we need to discuss your departure." "There is nothing to discuss," Dae-sung said politely. "We announced our intentions. We are following through. There have been some difficulties since your people began leaving. Perhaps we were hasty in our previous assessments of human contributions. Perhaps you were. We would like to negotiate a delay in your departure to give us time to transition certain systems. No. The simple word seemed to surprise Tovan. No? Just like that? You had 50 years to value our contributions, Daesung said. You had 50 years to treat us as equals. You chose contempt. Now you want us to delay our departure for your convenience? No, we leave in 50 days as scheduled. But systems are failing. People could die. 4,000 humans died in pirate raids while you called our space unimportant, Daesung said, his voice still calm but hard as steel. Where was your concern then? He closed the connection. Around him in the command ship, the final evacuations continued. 50 days. Then humanity would be free. The Council could learn to take care of itself, or not. That was no longer humanity's problem. Jinwu's fleet jumped to hyperspace carrying the last civilians from the frontier sectors. Behind them, automated systems began wiping every database, locking every door, disabling every human-built installation. In 90 days, nothing of value would remain. Humanity was taking everything with them, and the Council was finally beginning to understand what that meant. The emergency began on day 53 in the middle of Council night cycle. Station Nexus Prime, the heart of galactic government, experienced its first major failure. Life support dropped to critical levels in 3 sections. 40,000 beings had to evacuate to emergency shelters. The Council's best engineers worked through the night, trying to fix systems they had never fully understood. By morning, they had restored basic function, but the damage was clear. Without human maintenance, the station was slowly dying. How long can we maintain current operations? Tovan asked the engineering chief. The chief, a 6-armed Hexian with centuries of experience, made a gesture of uncertainty. Days, weeks? The humans built redundancy into everything, but they also built in dependencies we are only now discovering. Every fix we make reveals 3 more problems. Tovan turned to his advisors. For the first time since humans announced their departure, he looked genuinely worried. Get me a full assessment. Every system, every station, every colony. I want to know how bad this really is. The assessment took 3 days. The results were catastrophic. Yuna sat in her temporary office on the evacuation ship, reading through desperate messages from across Council space. There were hundreds now, then thousands, all begging for help, all offering deals, all suddenly realizing what they had lost. One message came from Relios Prime. The planet of 40 million souls was in crisis. Their life support was failing faster than anyone expected. The Council's emergency teams could not fix it. Without human help, they had perhaps 30 days before the atmosphere recyclers shut down completely. Please, the planetary governor's message said. We understand we treated your people poorly. We are sorry. But there are children here. Innocent beings who did nothing wrong. Will you let them die for our mistakes? Yuna closed her eyes. This was the hardest part. She wanted to help. Every human wanted to help. But Daesung had been clear. No aid until humanity was completely withdrawn and safe. The Council had to learn that actions had consequences. She sent a simple reply. We are sorry for your situation. We recommend you contact the Council Engineering Corps for assistance. Our ships are too far away to return in time. The lie hurt, but it was necessary. Human ships could reach Relios Prime in 3 days, but going back would show weakness, would make the Council think they could manipulate humanity through guilt. Morpheus Prime worked tirelessly to coordinate emergency responses. The ancient being had lived through many crises, but nothing like this. In its long memory, it recalled times when younger species had departed councils before. But those species had been truly primitive, contributing little. Humanity had been different. Humanity had been the invisible foundation holding everything together. Medical report, an aide said, bringing more bad news. The crystalline entities were facing their own crisis. For 8 centuries, they had suffered from something called static decay, a condition that caused their crystalline matrices to degrade. It was not fatal but painful, reducing lifespan by half. 10 years ago, human researchers had developed a treatment. Nothing dramatic, just a regular application of specific resonance frequencies that kept the decay from progressing. Every crystalline entity in council space had been receiving that treatment. Now the treatments had stopped. The human medical teams were gone, their equipment locked, their research databases encrypted. Can we replicate the treatment? Morpheus Prime asked. We are trying, but human medical databases used unique encryption. We cannot access the full research data. We have basic information, but not enough to continue treatment safely. Morpheus Prime felt something it had not felt in centuries. Fear. Not for itself, though it too would suffer. Fear for what its people had become. Arrogant. Complacent. So certain of their superiority that they never noticed who was actually keeping them alive. The merchant guilds collapsed first. Kilara watched helplessly as her carefully built trade empire fell apart. Ships stranded without navigation data, ports backing up without loading optimization, trade routes that had been profitable for decades suddenly losing money, companies that had existed for centuries going bankrupt in weeks. How did this happen? She asked her advisors. One of them, braver than the rest, told her the truth. We relied on humans for everything we considered beneath us. The detailed work, the tedious optimization, the constant maintenance. We thought it was simple labor. But it was expertise. And now that expertise is gone. Food riots began on day 65. 3 agricultural worlds could not meet production quotas. The biotech that had made marginal lands productive was failing. Crops that had been modified to grow anywhere were reverting to their original, less productive states. Monitoring systems that detected diseases early were offline. Council military bases reported critical problems. Defense grids were operating at 60% capacity. Sensor arrays could not track small objects reliably. Communication relays were experiencing increasing failures. An admiral finally checked the maintenance logs and discovered that human civilian contractors had been maintaining 80% of all military infrastructure. Civilian contractors? The admiral said in disbelief. We let civilians maintain military installations? They were council members, his aide said. We trusted them. We ignored them, the admiral corrected. And now we are paying the price. Pirate attacks increased dramatically. The criminal elements had also noticed humanity's departure. More importantly, they noticed that the mysterious disappearances of pirate ships had stopped. For years, pirates who attacked human targets had simply vanished. The council had assumed it was good luck or coincidence. Now everyone understood humanity had been quietly hunting pirates, not making a show of it, not demanding credit, just eliminating threats to their people. With humans gone, the pirates were free to operate, and with council defenses degrading, they had targets everywhere. Huon was the last human intelligence operative in council space. His job was to observe and report. What he saw would have been funny if it was not so tragic. Council species were trying desperately to hire human engineers back. They were offering fortunes, titles, positions of power. Some were even promising council seats, the very thing they had denied humanity for 50 years. But human engineers were not interested. They were going home, to a place where their work was valued, where their expertise was respected, where they were equals, not servants. Final report, Hyun sent to Daesung on day 70. Council is in full panic. 15 species facing economic collapse. 23 critical infrastructure failures reported. 3 colonies under evacuation orders. Multiple delegations trying to reach human space to negotiate, all being turned back at the border. Recommendation: maintain current course. They are learning, but not fast enough. Daesung read the report and sighed. He took no joy in council suffering, but sometimes the only way to teach was through consequences. The council had built their civilization on taking others for granted. Now they were learning what happened when those others left. On day 75, Tovin did something he had never done in his 3 centuries of leadership. He called a press conference and admitted the council had made a mistake. We failed to properly value humanity's contributions, he said, the words clearly painful. We dismissed them when we should have elevated them. We are working to correct these problems, but we acknowledge that the current crisis is of our own making. It was too late. Humanity was not watching council news anymore. They were too busy building their own future, a future where they would never again be taken for granted. Yuna oversaw the last major evacuation on day 80. New Sol, the largest human colony in council space, home to 3 billion people. It took 20,000 ships working in perfect coordination. The council watched in amazement as humanity moved an entire world's population in 72 hours. As the last ship left orbit, automated systems began destroying everything human built on the planet. Factories, farms, power stations, all systematically dismantled. Humanity was leaving nothing behind. Nothing for the Council to use, to study, to take for granted. The Council finally understood. Humanity was serious. This was not a negotiating tactic. This was goodbye. The Council fleet arrived at the human staging area on day 82. 200 warships, the largest military force assembled in decades. They found something unexpected waiting for them. Mira stood on the bridge of the human flagship Indomitable, watching the Council fleet drop out of hyperspace. Around her, the human defense fleet held formation. Not 200 ships, not even 500. Over 1,000 vessels ranging from nimble destroyers to massive battle carriers that made Council dreadnoughts look small. They look surprised, her tactical officer said. They should be, Mira replied. Open a channel. The face of Admiral Kelvin appeared on screen. The four-eyed Vortian looked genuinely shocked. This is impossible. Intelligence said humans had maybe 300 military vessels. Your intelligence was wrong, Mira said calmly. Just as you were wrong about many things regarding humanity. State your business, Admiral. Kelvin gathered himself. The Council has sent this fleet to prevent the human evacuation. This departure is causing catastrophic damage to Council infrastructure. We demand you cease withdrawal operations immediately. You demand? Mira said, her voice dangerously quiet. Let me be clear, Admiral. We announced our departure 90 days ago through proper diplomatic channels. We are leaving Council space peacefully. We are not attacking anyone. We are simply going home. If you attempt to stop us, that would be an act of war. The Council has declared a state of emergency. Under emergency protocols, we have the authority to take necessary actions. Mira leaned forward. Admiral, look at your tactical display. Really look at it. You brought 200 ships. I have 1,000. Your vessels are good, but mostly old designs. My fleet is equipped with technology you did not know we had. We have been building and preparing for 50 years while you ignored us. If you start a fight here, you will lose, badly. Kelvin looked at his displays. His tactical officers were sending him urgent reports. The human ships were not just numerous, they were advanced. Stealth systems the Council did not know existed. Weapons that were registering in ways Council sensors had never seen. Shield configurations that looked impossible. You built all of this in secret? Kelvin asked. We built it while you were not paying attention, Mira corrected. There is a difference. We never hid our shipyards. We never concealed our research. You simply never bothered to look closely at what humans were doing. You assumed we were primitive and weak. That was your mistake. Behind the military standoff, desperate diplomatic efforts were underway. 3 Council species sent secret ambassadors to human territory, trying to negotiate separately. Each offered incredible deals. Wealth, technology, territory, anything to get human engineers back. Dae-Sung met with each ambassador privately. He listened to their offers with polite interest, then refused them all. The Velic ambassador could not understand. We are offering you 3 star systems. Rich systems with dilithium deposits worth trillions. Just send us 2,000 engineers for 5 years. That is all we ask. No, Dae-Sung said simply, but why? This is more than fair compensation. Because we are not coming back, Dae-Sung explained patiently. Not for money. Not for territory. Not for any price you can offer. We are leaving because staying meant being disrespected. No amount of wealth changes that. But you are condemning millions to suffering. Our infrastructure is collapsing. You built your infrastructure on taking our work for granted. That was your choice. We do not owe you our labor just because you cannot function without it. Learn to do the work yourselves. Or treat the next species you encounter with respect so they want to stay. The ambassador left angry and empty-handed. 2 more ambassadors followed. Both received the same answer. Humanity was not interested in negotiating. Morpheus Prime took a different approach. The ancient being sent a personal message directly to Dae-Sung, being to being without diplomatic protocols. I have lived 3,000 years, the message said. I have seen civilizations rise and fall. I have seen great species make terrible mistakes. We have made such a mistake with humanity. I do not ask you to return. I do not offer you bribes. I simply ask, how do we do better? Dae-Sung considered the message for a long time before responding. You start by treating younger species as equals, not children. You value work ethic over age. You recognize that contribution matters more than how long someone has been in space. You build partnerships, not hierarchies. And when someone asks for basic respect and fair treatment, you give it to them. It may be too late for humanity to trust us again. It is, Daesung confirmed. But it is not too late for the next species that joins your council. Learn from this. Be better to them. At the staging area, the military standoff continued. Neither side wanted to fire first, but neither was backing down. Council needed to stop the evacuation. Humans needed to protect their final transport convoys. Kelvin received orders from the council. Stop the humans by any means necessary. He looked at those orders, looked at his tactical display showing how badly outnumbered and outgunned he was, and made a decision. Open a channel to the human commander, he ordered. Mira's face appeared again. Admiral? I am withdrawing my fleet, Kelvin said quietly. I will report to the council that human military force made intervention impossible. That is the truth. But between us, commander to commander, I want you to know something. Not all of us agreed with how your people were treated. Some of us saw what you were doing, saw your contributions and tried to speak up. We were ignored too. Mira nodded slowly. I believe you, Admiral. And for what it is worth, we hold no hatred toward the council. We simply want to live on our own terms. I understand. Safe travels, Commander. I hope we meet again someday under better circumstances. The council fleet withdrew. Behind them, the last human transports began their final jumps to hyperspace. By day 85, only a skeleton crew remained in council space. Engineers making sure all human systems were properly shut down. Intelligence operatives collecting final reports. Diplomats handling last-minute details. Tovan made one last attempt. He sent a message directly to Daesung, no longer arrogant, just desperate. Name your price, anything. The council seat you wanted. Control of the security committee. Trade rights beyond any species in history. Just send back enough engineers to keep our critical systems running. Daesung's response was brief. We did not want special treatment. We wanted equal treatment. You could not give us that when it cost you nothing. Now you offer us everything, but only because you are desperate. That is not respect. That is exploitation attempting to continue under different terms. The answer is no. On day 90, the last human left council space. Yun, the final intelligence operative, transmitted his last message as his ship crossed the border. Objective complete. All human personnel and assets successfully withdrawn. Council space is now Council's problem. Good luck to them. Across Council space, the real crisis was just beginning. Without human maintenance, systems were failing faster. Without human optimization, everything was less efficient. Without human protection, pirates were everywhere. The Council had depended on humanity for so much more than they realized. But there was a deeper problem the Council was only starting to understand. 8 other species, the younger members who had also been marginalized and dismissed, were watching everything carefully. They saw how humanity had been treated. They saw how humanity had left. And they saw that humanity was not collapsing without the Council. Humanity was thriving. Quietly, those 8 species began their own preparations. If the Council could not learn to value all its members, perhaps it was time for more departures. The Council's crisis was not over. It was just beginning. Mira's fleet formed up around the last transport convoy. Ahead of them, beyond Council borders, lay human territory. Behind them, the Council was finally learning the cost of its arrogance. She felt no satisfaction in their suffering, only relief that her people were finally free. All ships, she transmitted, set course for home. Our time in Council space is over. Our future begins now. 1,000 ships engaged their drives and jumped to hyperspace, leaving the Council to its fate. 6 months after humanity left the Council, Yuna stood on the observation deck of New Sol Station and watched ships coming and going. Hundreds of them, all human designs, all moving with purpose and efficiency. Below, the planet New Sol thrived, with 15 billion people building a new civilization. This was humanity's new capital, chosen specifically because it was far from Council space. The planet was beautiful, with blue oceans and green continents, carefully terraformed over the past 20 years, while the Council had not been paying attention. Everything was ready for humanity's departure long before they announced it. Governor Yuna, an aide said, approaching carefully, "You have visitors, a delegation from the Council." Yuna was not surprised. This was the 5th delegation in 6 months. Each time the Council sent different representatives with different offers. Each time the answer was the same. But she agreed to meet them anyway. It was important that they see what humanity had become. The delegation was led by Morpheus Prime itself, along with 3 other counselors. They looked around the station with barely concealed amazement. Everything was clean, efficient, and advanced. This was not the struggling refugee civilization they expected to find. "Governor," Morpheus Prime said, its translated voice respectful, "thank you for seeing us." "You traveled a long way," Una said politely. "Please sit. Tell me how we can help you." The 3 other counselors exchanged glances. This was not the bitter, angry human they expected. Una seemed genuinely at peace, even happy. Morpheus Prime pulsed with what might have been sadness. "We come to apologize, not to negotiate or make demands, simply to apologize. The Council has spent 6 months trying to repair the damage from your departure. In that time, we have learned exactly how much we took you for granted. We built our entire civilization on your unacknowledged labor. That was wrong." "Yes," Una agreed simply. "It was. We cannot offer anything to make up for 50 years of disrespect, but we wanted you to know that things are changing in Council space. Tovin is no longer Speaker. New leadership has restructured how the Council operates. Younger species now have real representation. We are trying to learn from our mistakes." Una nodded. "That is good. The other species deserve better treatment than we received." One of the counselors, a nervous Tellarian, spoke up. "Will humanity consider returning, not under the old terms, but as full equals? We would offer you seats on all major committees, veto power over policies affecting human interests, anything you ask." "No," Una said gently but firmly. "We are not coming back." "But you have built something remarkable here," the counselor protested, gesturing to the station around them. "Imagine what we could accomplish together if we combined Council resources with human innovation." "We already are accomplishing it," Una said, "without the Council." She stood and walked to the viewing window. "Would you like to see what we have built?" The delegation joined her. Outside, the view was breathtaking. Not just human ships, but vessels from 8 other species all working together. The younger Council members who had also been marginalized had followed humanity's example. They had not left as dramatically, but they had left, and they had joined humanity's new alliance. "This is the Independent Coalition," Una explained. 9 species all treated as equals. We make decisions by consensus. We value contribution over age. We recognize that good ideas can come from anyone, regardless of how long their species has been in space. Morpheus Prime observed the ships with its ancient senses. It recognized those designs. Those were Council species. Or they had been. "You took our younger members. We offered them a choice," Una corrected. "Stay in a council that dismissed them or join a coalition that valued them. They chose to value themselves, just as we did." Below on the planet, Hana oversaw construction of the new orbital shipyards. They were 3 times larger than anything in Council space, building vessels with technology that had been restricted or hidden while humans were Council members. No longer. Now humanity and its allies could build whatever they wanted. The economy was booming. Free from Council tariffs and regulations, trade flowed efficiently. Human merchants worked with Tellarian traders, Velic miners, and 6 other species to build an economic system that benefited everyone. Not hierarchies based on age, but partnerships based on mutual benefit. Quan, the young diplomat who represented humanity's next generation, gave tours to curious visitors. He had been born after humanity joined the Council, but grew up watching his people be dismissed. Now he was building something better. "How do you handle disputes?" a visiting alien student asked. "The Council uses age-based hierarchy. Oldest species have most authority. We use merit and mediation," Quan explained. "If species disagree, we talk until we find a solution that works for everyone. It takes longer sometimes, but everyone feels heard. Everyone feels valued. What if someone refuses to compromise? Then we remind them why they left the Council. Because they were tired of being ignored. They tend not to want to ignore others after experiencing that themselves. On a military base at the edge of Coalition space, Mira trained the new integrated defense force. Human tactics combined with Talarian speed and Velic durability made for formidable units. More importantly, they trained as equals. No species was considered superior or inferior. Only capable or still learning. The Council's military is requesting cooperation on pirate suppression, her second-in-command reported. Mira considered it. Agree, but on our terms. We hunt pirates in our territory and share intelligence, but we operate independently. Make it clear we are helping as equals, not subordinates. That is a significant change in your stance. 6 months ago, we were angry, Mira admitted. Now we are just free. The Council is not our enemy. They were simply a bad partnership, but we can work together on specific issues without rejoining them. The coalition was not perfect. 9 species trying to build something new had challenges. Cultural misunderstandings happened. Economic disagreements arose, but they faced them together, as partners, and found solutions. Back on New Sol Station, the Council delegation prepared to leave. Morpheus Prime had one final question for Una. Do you ever regret leaving? Even with all you have built here, do you wonder what might have been if we had treated you better from the start? Una thought about it honestly. Sometimes, she admitted. We could have accomplished great things together. The Council has knowledge and experience that would have helped us. But respect is more important than opportunity. We chose dignity over convenience. I do not regret that. Will you ever forgive us? We already have, Una said, surprising them. Forgiveness is easy. Trust is what takes time. Maybe in another century, when the Council has proven it truly changed, our species can work together again, as equals, as partners. But not now. Now we need to build our own future. The delegation left quietly. They had come hoping to convince humanity to return. They left understanding that chapter was closed. But they also saw something unexpected. Humanity was not suffering. Humanity was thriving. And that was perhaps the hardest lesson of all. The Council had believed itself essential. Humanity proved otherwise. 2 years after humanity's departure, a young Velic student wrote a dissertation that became famous across both Council and Coalition space. It was titled, The Human Question: How One Species Changed Galactic Politics Forever. The conclusion was simple. Humanity did not destroy the Council by leaving. They saved it by showing what it had become. A civilization that takes others for granted is already dying. The Council survives because humanity's departure forced change. The Coalition thrives because they built something based on mutual respect from the beginning. The greatest lesson is not that humanity left, but why they left, and what they built after. In Council space, reforms continued slowly. Younger species gained more representation. Elder species learned to listen. The arrogance that had defined Council culture for millennia began to fade, replaced by cautious humility. It would take generations to fully change, but the process had begun. In Coalition space, humanity and its 8 partner species explored new frontiers. They discovered worlds the Council had overlooked. They developed technologies combining the best insights from all 9 species. They built a civilization where a good idea mattered more than who thought of it. Daesung, now retired, wrote a memoir. The final chapter was titled, Why We Left. It became required reading for diplomats across known space. We did not leave because we hated the Council, he wrote. We left because we respected ourselves. That is the difference. Hatred is loud and angry. Self-respect is quiet and firm. We tried for 50 years to earn their respect. When we finally realized we already had our own respect, leaving was easy. The hardest part was not the departure. It was accepting that we had stayed too long hoping for something they were not ready to give. On the observation deck of New Sol Station, Una watched the endless flow of ships. Coalition vessels, human freighters, even some Council traders who came to do business on equal terms. This was what humanity had built, not by conquering, not by destroying. simply by valuing themselves enough to walk away from those who did not value them. Her communicator chimed. Another council delegation requesting a meeting. This one included all 9 remaining elder species leaders,